Disneyland may be the happiest place on Earth, but even the most magical spots have their dark moments. Over the years, the park has seen its share of terrible accidents, some ending in tragedy and leaving both visitors and staff shaken. From the heartbreaking loss of Deborah Gail Stone at the America Sings attraction to the shocking monorail accident that took a young man's life.
And it is here where the crash occurs.
These events serve as chilling reminders that danger can lurk even in the most enchanting places. Join us as we take a closer look at 10 of the most horrific deaths that have occurred at Disneyland. The Hyperion Theater tragedy, Christopher Bowman. Disney's California adventure opened in 2001, striving to bring a California-themed flair to the Disney experience. Despite early struggles with lackluster theming and a shortage of must-see attractions, the park has since become a staple thanks to Pixar and other big-name franchises. However, not everything in its history has been magical. On April 22, 2003, the Hyperion Theater became the scene of one of Disney's most harrowing tragedies. The theater, known for hosting Broadway-caliber shows, is a marvel of technical and artistic achievement. Behind the glitz lies a demanding, high-risk environment for the technicians who make the magic happen. Christopher Bowman, a 36-year-old stage technician, was one such individual. Tasked with testing special effects for the park's adaptation of Aladdin, Bowman arrived at work early that Tuesday morning. At around 6 a.m., Bowman was working from a catwalk high above the stage, secured by a safety harness. Somehow, despite the harness, Bowman fell 60 feet to the ground. The fall caused catastrophic injuries, including severe head trauma, internal bleeding, and a fractured pelvis. He was rushed to UCY Medical Center, where doctors fought to stabilize him. Hospital staff reported a brief improvement, but swelling in his brain prevented further neurological evaluation. Tragically, Bowman succumbed to his injuries a month after the fall. The incident devastated the Disney community and sparked a wave of questions about safety in the park. In the aftermath, the California Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, launched an investigation revealing shocking findings. The investigation placed the blame squarely on Disney, citing multiple failures in safety protocols. OSHA determined that the safety measures were inadequate for Bowman's work's high-risk nature. Disney faced penalties for the violations, including a fine of $18,350, a figure that many critics called insultingly low. As one observer quipped, the amount could have been covered by the coins in Mickey Mouse's pockets. This paltry fine only added to the outrage, highlighting the stark contrast between Disney's immense financial resources and the value placed on worker safety. The tragedy spurred Disney to make changes to its safety policies, including enhanced training programs and stricter enforcement of safety measures. Yet, for many, the memory of Bowman's death lingers as a grim reminder of the human cost behind the scenes of the magic. The Monorail tragedy, Thomas Guy Cleveland. Disneyland's Monorail, a marvel of modern transportation and an iconic piece of the park, has been carrying guests through the magic since 1959. Sleek, futuristic, and typically safe, the monorail embodies Walt Disney's vision of tomorrow. However, even the most advanced systems rely on human caution, a lesson learned tragically on June 17, 1966. Thomas Guy Cleveland, a 19-year-old from Northridge, made a dangerous decision that night. It was grad night, a tradition where Southern California high school seniors celebrate at Disneyland, but Cleveland had no ticket. Seeking to sneak into the park, he scaled two chain-link fences, one 6 feet high and the other an astonishing 16 feet. His goal was to gain access via the monorail track, a path not designed for pedestrians and fraught with danger. At 9:25 p.m., as Cleveland crossed the monorail trestle above the employee parking lot, the 4-car monorail train approached at 25 miles per hour. Security officers spotted him and shouted warnings to get down. Cleveland complied, crouching low on the canopy beneath the track. But tragedy struck. The monorail's clearance was too low to spare him. The operator, Dallas Baker, later stated he had no idea someone was on the track until he felt a sudden jolt and the train lost power. By then, it was too late. All 4 cars passed over Cleveland, and the results were horrific. Witnesses described the scene as harrowing, with the boy's body severely mutilated. Security officers, including Theodore John Thomas and Paul L. Williams, watched in helpless horror as the monorail struck him. Passengers riding in the nose cone of the train reportedly felt the impact but remained unaware of the true cause. The train, immobilized by the collision, was stranded for 10 minutes before a work car towed it to the next station. Meanwhile, Disneyland officials and emergency responders worked to assess and manage the devastating aftermath. This incident is a stark reminder of the consequences of venturing into restricted areas, especially in places like Disneyland, where attractions are engineered with precision and safety, but only for intended use. Thomas Guy Cleveland's death marked one of the earliest fatalities at Disneyland and remains one of its most chilling. Death at the Matterhorn Bobsleds, Mark Maples. The Matterhorn Bobsleds, an iconic attraction at Disneyland, has offered thrilling alpine-themed adventures since its debut in 1959. However, this beloved ride harbors a chilling history, including one of the park's first major fatalities, the tragic death of 15-year-old Mark Maples in 1964. Mark, a teenager enjoying his first night of freedom after weeks of being grounded, spent the evening with his girlfriend and friends, savoring Disneyland's magic. After spinning on the Mad Tea Party teacups and exploring other attractions, the group eagerly lined up for the Matterhorn. Back then, it was Disneyland's only thrill ride, a 147-foot-tall mountain modeled after the Swiss Matterhorn, complete with a bobsled coaster winding through its icy interior. The Matterhorn's origins add an ironic twist to its story. Originally, a pile of dirt from the construction of Sleeping Beauty Castle stood in its place. When Walt Disney visited Switzerland in 1958, he fell in love with the real Matterhorn and decided to replicate it at Disneyland. By 1959, the dirt pile was transformed into a breathtaking snow-covered peak, and the Matterhorn Bobsleds became an instant hit. That fateful night, Mark and his 2 friends loaded into a bobsled, sitting tightly together in a 3-person configuration. As the ride began its ascent, the excitement was obvious. The bobsled climbed through the dimly lit interior of the mountain, with its swift curves and sharp turns awaiting them. During the rapid descent, Mark's friends noticed something unsettling. One of them felt an unexpected jolt and turned to see Mark's sweater flying out of the sled. A moment later, Mark was gone, having fallen from the ride. Panic ensued as the boys reached the end of the ride and urgently sought help from attendants, only to be met with disbelief. Time ticked by before emergency services were finally called. When rescuers reached the scene, they found Mark on a ledge inside the mountain with severe injuries, including a fractured skull and broken ribs. He was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries days later. Disney's official statement attributed the accident to Mark unbuckling his safety restraint and standing up mid-ride, likely hitting his head on the tunnel's interior before being thrown out. But eyewitness accounts and rumors suggested otherwise. Some believed Mark was trying to impress his girlfriend, while others speculated that a friend had tampered with his restraint as a prank. The aftermath was mired in controversy. Questions arose about the ride's safety measures and whether more could have been done to prevent such a tragedy. Yet the case was ultimately ruled accidental, with the responsibility placed on Mark's actions. Crushed at America Sings, Deborah Stone. In the summer of 1974, Disneyland unveiled its new attraction, America Sings, a rotating theater designed to showcase American musical history through animatronic animals performing iconic songs. The attraction, housed in the former Carousel of Progress Theater, was a mechanical marvel. Guests sat in 6 theater sections that rotated counterclockwise around a series of stationary stages, each depicting a different musical era. It was a cutting-edge experience at the time, but this innovation came with an unforeseen flaw that would lead to tragedy. 18-year-old Deborah Gail Stone had recently graduated from high school in Santa Ana, California, and taken a summer job at Disneyland before heading to college. She was friendly, ambitious, and excited to be part of the park's new attraction. Her role was to welcome guests as they entered the theater, using a microphone to introduce the show and set the stage for their experience. On the night of July 8, 1974, only 9 days after the attraction opened, Deborah was stationed at her post. Reports suggest that during a 45-second interval, when the theater rotated to usher in the next group of guests, Deborah moved too close to the narrow space between the stationary stage and the rotating wall. It's unclear whether she lost her footing, leaned in too far, or was unaware of how quickly the wall would move. Tragically, she became trapped in the machinery as the walls came together. Guests seated in the next section of the theater were initially unaware to the unfolding disaster. Deborah's screams echoed through the attraction, but most believed they were part of the performance, blending with the animatronic animals' cheerful songs. However, one guest, Daniel Robison, a U.S. Air Force member, realized something was wrong. He later told investigators that he saw what he thought was a child being dragged between the walls and heard a scream that chilled him to his core. Park staff were alerted, but by the time they reached Deborah, it was too late. She had been crushed to death in a horrific accident that stunned everyone at the park. The ride was immediately shut down, and Disneyland launched an investigation. While Deborah's exact movements leading to the accident remain uncertain, her death highlighted a critical design flaw in the attraction. In the days following the tragedy, Disneyland made swift changes to prevent such accidents in the future. Warning lights and alarms were installed, and the rotating walls were redesigned to break away in the event of another emergency. Despite these changes, the incident left a dark stain on America Sings, which continued to operate until 1988. Deborah's family sued Disneyland for her death and received a modest settlement, but no amount of money could ease their loss. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad accident, Marcelo Torres. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is one of Disneyland's most iconic attractions, a roller coaster that takes riders on a high-speed journey through a rugged Old West mining town. The ride, which opened in 1979, is famous for its sharp turns, sudden drops, and immersive design, featuring red rock canyons, faux waterfalls, and abandoned mining equipment. Guests are seated in train cars that weave through dimly lit tunnels and steep inclines, offering thrills and a taste of adventure. For decades, it was a fan favorite, but on September 5, 2003, it became the site of one of Disneyland's most tragic accidents, forever altering its legacy. The accident occurred late in the morning as park guests eagerly boarded the ride for what they thought would be another routine thrill. As the train ascended into a tunnel, disaster struck. A critical mechanical failure caused the locomotive, designed to resemble a mining engine, to derail. The rear wheels of the locomotive had not been properly secured during maintenance, and they came loose, causing the engine to lift off the track and smash into the ceiling of the tunnel. The first passenger car, directly behind the engine, was crushed as the locomotive derailed. Marcelo Torres, a 22-year-old from Gardena, California, was seated in that first passenger car. He suffered fatal injuries during the collision, and his life was tragically cut short in what should have been a day of joy. 10 other riders, ranging in age from 9 to 47, were also injured, some severely. Passengers in the other cars were left in shock and fear, trapped in the dark, chaotic tunnel for nearly an hour as rescue crews worked to extract them. Witnesses outside described the scene as horrifying. People ran from the area, screaming for help, while frantic calls for emergency services echoed through the park. The investigation that followed revealed that the accident was entirely preventable. Inspectors determined that the fasteners on the rear wheels of the locomotive had not been properly tightened during routine maintenance. This failure allowed the axle to come loose and jam against the brakes, leading to the derailment. The oversight exposed a devastating lapse in Disneyland's maintenance protocols, and the company faced significant criticism for its failure to prevent such a tragedy. The fallout was immediate. The ride was closed for 6 months, while extensive repairs and inspections were conducted. Disney executives, including CEO Michael Eisner, expressed their condolences to Torres's family and the other victims, calling the incident a sobering reminder of the importance of guest safety. Torres's family later filed a lawsuit, which was settled privately. The tragedy left an indelible mark on Disneyland's history. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad eventually reopened with updated safety measures, but the memory of Marcelo Torres's death remains a stark reminder that even in the happiest places, moments of joy can be overshadowed by preventable mistakes. The Critter Country Fall, Bonnie Lear. On June 5, 2024, a tragic incident unfolded in a secluded area of Disneyland, far from the enchanting attractions that draw millions of visitors each year. Bonnie Mavis Lear, a 60-year-old administrator at the exclusive Club 33, was riding in the rear-facing seat of a golf cart with 3 colleagues. As the vehicle traversed a backstage road behind Critter Country, a section of the park known for its rustic charm and attractions like Splash Mountain and the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the driver, reportedly traveling at approximately 20 miles per hour, encountered a bump or dip in the path. In an attempt to stabilize herself, Lear grabbed the handrail, which tragically gave way, causing her to fall from the moving cart. The impact resulted in severe head injuries, including a fractured skull and brain swelling. Despite immediate medical attention, she succumbed to her injuries 2 days later, on June 7th. The Anaheim Police Department and California's Division of Occupational Safety and Health, Cal-OSHA, initiated investigations into the incident. Cal-OSHA requires Disneyland to report serious injuries or fatalities within 8 hours and to preserve any evidence related to the accident. Investigators conducted a thorough review, photographing the area, inspecting the golf cart, and interviewing employees privately to determine the circumstances leading to the tragedy. Bonnie Lear was a cherished member of the Disneyland team, dedicating 24 years to the park's operations. Her role at Club 33, an exclusive members-only club located above New Orleans Square, involved overseeing the club's operations and ensuring a seamless experience for its esteemed guests. Club 33, inspired by the VIP lounges Walt Disney encountered at the 1964 New York World's Fair, is renowned for its elegance and exclusivity. Lear's commitment to excellence and her warm demeanor made her a beloved figure among colleagues and guests alike. Following the incident, Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock expressed deep sorrow, stating, "We are heartbroken by the loss of Bonnie and offer our sincere condolences to everyone who cared for her." He emphasized the park's focus on supporting her family and cast members during this challenging time. Drowned at the Rivers of America, Bogdan Deloro. The Rivers of America is a serene and scenic waterway that winds through Disneyland, adding a touch of natural beauty to the park's charm. This iconic attraction allows guests to embark on riverboats like the Mark Twain and sailing ship Columbia, taking in sights such as Tom Sawyer's Island, the burning settler's cabin, and rustic fortresses. Accessible only by raft, Tom Sawyer's Island is a secluded playground of caves, bridges, and trails, where young adventurers immerse themselves in the fictional world of Mark Twain's stories. However, the island's idyllic allure turned tragic one fateful night in 1973. On June 22nd, 18-year-old Bogdan Deloro and his 10-year-old brother Dorian, visiting from Brooklyn, New York, made a decision that would alter their families' lives forever. As the island was closing for the day, the two brothers decided to stay behind. While staff ushered the last of the guests onto rafts heading back to the mainland, Bogdan and Dorian jumped a fence and hid in the woods near the burning settler's cabin, a dramatic feature designed to evoke the dangers of frontier life. As night fell and the park grew quiet, the brothers realized they needed to return to the main park but feared getting caught. Instead of calling for help, they decided to swim across the Rivers of America, a dangerous choice for two boys, especially since Dorian did not know how to swim. Bogdan, determined to protect his younger brother, carried him on his back and entered the water. Midway across the river, tragedy struck. Bogdan lost his footing and went under, unable to resurface. In a desperate bid to survive, Dorian managed to doggy paddle across the water until he was spotted by a staff boat. While Dorian was safely rescued, his older brother's fate remained uncertain. Disneyland security, Anaheim police, and firefighters launched a frantic search that spanned the night. Hours later, as dawn broke, Bogdan's lifeless body was discovered near the island, trapped between fake rocks that lined the shoreline. The tragedy left the Delarue family shattered. They later filed a lawsuit against Disneyland, arguing that the allure of Tom Sawyer's Island had enticed their sons to break the rules and engage in dangerous behavior. Disney, however, was cleared of any wrongdoing, citing that the boys' decision to remain on the island and attempt the swim was outside the park's control. Today, Bogdan rests in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. His story a quiet footnote in the history of the happiest place on Earth. Steel plate accident. Javier Jimenez. In the early hours of August 12, 2021, tragedy struck near Disneyland's backstage employee entrance in Anaheim, California. What should have been a routine night for a construction crew turned into a fatal accident, claiming the life of 37-year-old Javier Jimenez, a devoted father, boyfriend, and respected contractor. The incident serves as a haunting reminder of the unseen dangers behind the magic of the happiest place on Earth. Javier, a West Covina resident working for the Whiting-Turner Contracting Company, was part of a team tasked with installing large pipes in a trench as part of Disneyland's ongoing infrastructure maintenance. The backstage area, hidden from the park's lively attractions, was a stark contrast to the cheerful world of rides and parades. Around 3:20 a.m., as workers maneuvered one of the heavy pipes into place, disaster struck. The pipe accidentally struck a crossbeam, dislodging a large steel plate. The plate plummeted into the trench where Javier was working, striking him with catastrophic force. Emergency responders arrived quickly, rushing him to UC Irvine Medical Center in nearby Orange. Despite their best efforts, Javier succumbed to his injuries at 4:13 a.m. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest due to the traumatic injuries he sustained. News of the accident devastated those who knew Javier. His girlfriend, Angelina Arambula, set up a GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral expenses and support his family. In a heartfelt message, she described him as a devoted boyfriend, loving father and stepfather, an amazing son, brother, and friend. She added, "There was no father like him. He lived an extraordinary life, and his memories will live with us forever." Javier's co-workers and friends echoed these sentiments, recalling his work ethic, kindness, and unwavering commitment to his loved ones. As someone who worked tirelessly to support his family, Javier's life revolved around ensuring their happiness and stability. California's Division of Occupational Safety and Health launched an immediate investigation into the accident. Their task was to determine if proper safety protocols had been followed and whether any violations contributed to the tragedy. Construction sites, particularly those involving heavy machinery and confined spaces, are inherently dangerous, and accidents like this highlight the importance of strict safety measures. Disneyland Resort released a statement following the accident, expressing their condolences. "We are saddened by this tragic accident involving a contractor, and on behalf of Disneyland Resort, we extend our deepest sympathies to Mr. Jimenez's family, friends, and co-workers." The Whiting-Turner Contracting Company also cooperated with authorities, pledging to review their safety procedures. For park visitors, Disneyland is a place of joy, wonder, and unforgettable memories. Yet, for the workers who labor behind the scenes, it's also a place of risk and responsibility. Javier's untimely death is a sobering reminder of the sacrifices made to maintain the magic. Javier Jimenez is survived by his family, who continue to honor his memory. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. The animatronic pirates weren't supposed to move like that. Guests on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride watched in horror as one of the robotic buccaneers, Captain Redgrave, turned its head past its usual range, metal joints screeching. Then it stepped off its platform. Maggie Chen, a Disneyland technician, had been troubleshooting a minor glitch when the ride suddenly shut down. The next moment, Redgrave was on the move, its rusted cutlass slicing through the humid air. The guests thought it was part of the show until Maggie screamed. Security footage later showed what happened in grainy, flickering detail. The animatronic chased Maggie through the flooded set, moving faster than any machine should. She tripped in the water, and Redgrave pounced. By the time the emergency lights flickered on, only her hat floated on the surface. No body, no trace. The ride remained closed for weeks. Disney called it a tragic accident, but those who saw it firsthand whispered about something else. The way Redgrave still twitched at night, the way the water sometimes rippled, like something was still moving underneath. Maggie's name now appears on lists of 10 most horrific deaths at Disneyland. But was she really dead? The People Mover tragedy, Ricky Lee Yama. When Disneyland introduced the People Mover on July 2nd, 1967, it was hailed as a futuristic innovation. Positioned in Tomorrowland, the ride was designed to embody Walt Disney's vision of an efficient and utopian urban transportation system. With sleek, open-air cars that glided effortlessly along elevated tracks, it provided guests with a tranquil, grand circle tour of Tomorrowland. However, this serene experience was marred by tragedy just a month later, highlighting the dangers of misjudging the ride's deceptively calm exterior. On August 21, 1967, 17-year-old Ricky Lee Yama visited Disneyland with friends. The People Mover, with its constantly moving trains, intrigued visitors with its innovative technology. The vehicles were powered not by motors in the cars themselves, but by 517 rotating tires embedded in the track, each spaced 9 feet apart. This engineering marvel allowed for a smooth ride, but it also meant the system had little tolerance for interruptions. While the People Mover's design seemed harmless, its unyielding mechanics created a lethal environment for anyone who stepped out of line. As Ricky and his friends boarded, the attraction's unique rotating platform matched the speed of the trains, allowing passengers to seamlessly embark and disembark. Despite warnings to remain seated during the ride, Ricky attempted a daring move. Somewhere along the ride's dark tunnel section, he decided to leap from his car to the next one, aiming to reunite with his friends. In the dimly lit tunnel, Ricky miscalculated the timing and lost his footing. He slipped off the ride platform and fell onto the track. As the People Mover cars continued their relentless journey, one of the trains struck Ricky, dragging him along the track. The ride was brought to a halt, but it was too late. A Disneyland security guard recalled the harrowing scene, saying, "I knew he was dead right away. I looked under the car and could see his head was right in two." The People Mover's design added to the tragedy. The rotating tires that powered the vehicles meant there was no way to stop individual cars quickly. Emergency procedures required shutting down the entire system, a process that took precious time. After the accident, the ride had to be partially dismantled to recover Ricky's body. Disneyland officials faced intense scrutiny following the incident, and the park enforced stricter safety protocols. However, the People Mover at Disneyland eventually closed in 1995, but its legacy, both as a symbol of futuristic ambition and as the site of heartbreaking loss, remains. Death on Space Mountain, Cheryl Ann Hoffman. Space Mountain is one of Disneyland's most iconic attractions, thrilling guests since its debut in 1977. This indoor roller coaster takes riders on a simulated journey through outer space, complete with dazzling starry projections and sudden twists and turns in near-total darkness. The ride is a marvel of engineering, designed to create the sensation of zooming through the cosmos. However, beneath its futuristic allure lies a history marked by a few tragic incidents, including one that occurred in 1979. On August 14, 1979, 31-year-old Cheryl Ann Hoffman visited Disneyland, eager to experience the magic of the park. Among the attractions she chose was Space Mountain, with its reputation for high-speed thrills and immersive visuals. Cheryl boarded the sleek, rocket-shaped vehicle, anticipating an exhilarating ride through simulated galaxies. However, upon completing the ride, Cheryl began feeling unwell. She struggled to exit the vehicle, prompting ride operators to instruct her to remain seated so they could remove her car from the track for assistance. Tragically, a miscommunication among the staff led to a grave error. Unaware of the plan to assist her, other operators mistakenly sent her vehicle around the track for a second ride. During this unintended second circuit, Cheryl lost consciousness. When her vehicle returned to the unloading zone, she was found semi-conscious and in need of immediate medical attention. She was rushed to Palm Harbor Hospital, where she lapsed into a coma. Sadly, Cheryl passed away 7 days later. An autopsy revealed that Cheryl had a pre-existing tumor in her heart. The intense motion of the ride caused the tumor to dislodge, leading to a fatal embolism. Her family filed a lawsuit against Disneyland, alleging that the park's failure to properly execute their plan to assist her contributed to her death. Disneyland defended itself by citing the numerous warning signs posted throughout the park, advising guests with medical conditions to avoid high-intensity rides. They argued that Cheryl's pre-existing condition was the primary cause of her death, not negligence on their part. This incident brought attention to the critical importance of communication and safety protocols within amusement parks. In response, Disneyland reviewed and reinforced its operational procedures, ensuring better staff training and clearer communication channels to handle medical emergencies effectively. Given the tragic history of accidents at Disneyland, do you think there are any attractions at the resort that are just too dangerous to ride?